Hey, welcome back to another episode of Sis Stop Sulking. I'm your favorite accountability coach, and this is the space where we dive into mindset shifts, life goals, and soulful conversations that help you to heal, rebuild, and grow in your purpose. So go ahead and hit subscribe, grab your journal, and let's do this together. I'm so excited to introduce Dr. Xenia Barnes. She's a social and behavioral scientist and also the creator of the Trauma to Triumph transformation model. So I want to hear all about that. So welcome, Dr. Xenia. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, allowing me to share in this space with you today. And I just look forward to engaging with your audience and sharing some of the knowledge that I have.
Yes, me too. And so before we get into it, right? So at the beginning of every episode, I like to play a game that is called this or that. Okay. And so
Okay, let's do it.
I'm gonna name two things and you're just gonna say which one pops into your mind first. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Tea,
Early morning or late night?
late night.
Books or podcast?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm divided. Okay, books.
Books. Okay. Solo trip or girls trip?
Solo trip is okay.
Journaling or voice notes?
Journaling.
Vision board or digital planner?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, vision board.
Cute heels or comfy sneakers?
Oh, see, this is unfair. This is unfair because I always want to be cute, but I'm more of a comfy sneaker person.
Okay, so I'll let you have both of those for that. Sweet or salty?
Salty.
Text or phone call?
Text.
Brunch date or dinner party?
Brunch date.
Beach or spa day?
Spa day. Hands down.
All right, a few more. Music playlist or podcast episode?
That depends on the day. Um, Lately it's been more of a music playlist.
Okay. Make a list or go with the flow?
Go with the flow.
And heels off first or bra off first?
Bra off first.
Thank you. That was fun. That was fun.
Last one.
Yes. So I did introduce you a little bit, but if you don't mind telling us a little bit more about, or if I left anything off that you want to start off with, how are you making waves in your corner of the world?
Ooh, great question. Again, thank you for having me. I am making waves in my corner of the world by helping others redefine what resilience, trauma, and triumph looks like for them. And that is through the work that I do and the research that I do with behavioral studies and trauma, as well as life experience, everything that I'm going through. So what sets me apart from other coaches and other behavioral scientists is my knowledge doesn't only come from textbook, it comes from real life experience. So any strategies that I use are all strategies that I have lived and experienced. And so that's what led me to the From Trauma to Triumph framework. It's because walk the walk and talk what you walk. It's one thing to tell people what they should do when you haven't experienced it, or what you would do when you haven't experienced. It's another thing to be able to offer strategies and tools that you have used and you know are successful when someone is going through
Yes.
something. And
Yes.
so that's how I have been making waves in my corner of, of the universe over here, and in the virtual universe. It's just being honest and being really authentic and relatable to individuals.
Yes, I love that. And I mean, that is such an alignment with myself and my mission. So there's no coincidence why we're here, right? Because when I met you at a women's conference, just by your energy and seeing what the title of your book, and we're going to get into that, I just was like, I want to meet her and I want to introduce her to others, and for you to share your story. And so we all have experienced trauma. We all don't manage it or deal with it the same or effectively. And that's why I like you saying from trauma to triumph. And so I just want to know what was like the pivotal moment, or what was the trauma, if you will, that got you to say, you know what, I want to help other women, or I don't know if it's just women, but other people with by sharing my story and, you know, giving them the framework.
Absolutely. So there were two different points and entries of trauma that I experienced, and they were like years apart. So one part of trauma I experienced was grief. And that was after losing my only nephew to gun violence, and recognizing what not only myself, but my entire family was going through. It was like an out of body experience. Now, I live in a community where we're not shy to gun violence. We know it happens. But honestly, that was the first time I had experienced it so closely, and to the point where it was really like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to help not only myself, I didn't know how to help my sister or my family. And to recognize that we were all having like these nervous breakdowns, or not nervous, but mental breakdowns,
Yeah.
simultaneously, but also in silos. It really threw me for a loop. And I just realized, I said, there's something that has to be done, so that families are not going through this. And navigating through that is how I developed the non-for-profit that we have called the Anderson Foundation, fighting against
Can you
gun.
repeat that again? I'm sorry.
I know I speak so fast, like you know this, right? I apologize. The Anderson Foundation, which is my nephew's name, fighting against gun violence via education. And what that does, it allows us to go into the community and provide resources to other people who are grieving, and just help them know how to navigate through that grief, but also what resources are out there to help them to get through what they're going, whether it is they need support with funeral services, whether it is that they need support with employment, whether it is they need support with getting back to work and going back into the workforce after experiencing something like that. That's one part of it. But then I want to say 4 years after that happened, I was then diagnosed with a terminal illness called pulmonary fibrosis. And this is when I really began to dig into the from trauma to triumph framework, is because I had to learn how to grieve parts of myself that I would no longer be able to do, and parts of myself that I was no longer able to be like, in order for me to be the person that I am today. I was met with so much anger and frustration and just feeling hopelessness once I was diagnosed, because I was like, how is it possible that all the greatness that I do, all the things that I do in the world, and all as hard as I work, that I can be this ill and this thing could be happening to me. And that was part of the trauma. Part of the trauma was that that guilt of I should have been spending more time checking up on myself, going to the doctor. You know, you start going through all the things that you wish you could have done. But then was also that part of forgiveness, with recognizing that this is something that I can't change. So how do I forgive myself for the things that are out of my control, and understand that I have to give into a higher being and a higher purpose and power, and which brought me closer to my faith, which brought me closer in communication with my family, which brought me closer to understanding that I have to have hope and positive energy if I had any chance at having a better quality of life with what I've been dealt with. And so that's ties into my from trauma to triumph. And that's why I say redefining what trauma looks like, because most people think of trauma and they automatically think of what they can see, the bruises they can see, the hurt that they can see. But when you have a mental trauma, there are no bruises that visible to the eye. So redefining what does that look like for people, but then also redefining triumph. And triumph is those little things. Triumph is the small moments, the small accomplishments that after you experience the trauma, that you be able to do. So for me in the beginning, small triumphs to me was being able to sit up on my own, being able to say my name again, being able to eat a meal, being able to articulate what I was feeling. Those were small triumphs, which from the outside looking in, it's like, oh, those are things that you're supposed to be able to do, but we take that for granted when those
Yeah.
things are taken away, especially
Yeah.
if you're diagnosed with a long-term or terminal illness like myself. And so that's what From Trauma to Triumph is about. It's about understanding what your trauma is, understanding how, or naming it,
Mm-hmm.
identifying who it is that you need to have around you to keep you in a positive space, a
Mm-hmm.
positive mindset, but then also being able to forgive yourself for the things you can't change,
Mm-hmm.
as well as embracing and being and finding joy in the small moments and the small accomplishments, because that is what your triumph is.
Yes, I love that. And I love that for so many reasons. I wrote a book. It's called Sis, hence the podcast. Sis, Sis Stop Sulking. God's Plan is Greater. How to Grow Forward from Past Pain. And when I wrote the book, it was more so just me sharing little stories of my life initially. And then I said, how did I get to this point where I am, becoming the best version of myself and doing all of these things? And so I developed a framework as well. But I stopped promoting the book at one point because when people hear the word trauma, they like cringe or they
Mm-hmm.
go inward. And so there was some unblocking that I had to do to say, no, I stand in my truth and I'm healed from it. But why am I not wanting to promote it? Because other people are cringing from it. They need to face it. So when you talk about the frameworks and the strategies and things like that, and those things, it may seem like one of mine is forgiveness for freedom, right? And you
Right.
mentioned that, right? Forgiving yourself, but also forgiving those that did betray you or abuse you or let you down or abandon you, whatever that is, because that is biblical, right? And I'm not trying to be like, but that's just where what it comes from. And so when you talk about the trauma to the triumph, can you walk us through a little bit about what that process looks like for you and how you help your clients?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that. And so you have to identify the trauma and name it. And so, just like you said, most people, when they hear trauma, they cringe and they go inward. But that's when you give the trauma power. And
Mm-hmm.
so, going through, moving from trauma to triumph is not about rehashing, it's not about opening the old wounds. It's about changing your mindset so that you're rewriting your own story. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about you naming this thing happened to me. It affected me this way. And I'm no longer going to allow it to
Mm-hmm.
affect me any longer. So this is what I'm going to do. But as you know, so from that, that's the beginning stage where I call your incubation stage. That incubation stage is when you are now working on yourself.
I
You
love
are
that.
entering this season of me, this season of mental and emotional growth. And in you doing that, you're beginning to identify what your triggers are, what your boundaries need to be, setting your
Yeah,
expectations. Who are the people you need to walk away from?
that part.
you know,
That part.
and so that's a big part of it. And so what I tell in the beginning phases, what I explain to clients, and when I do my talks, I explain to people, when you begin this phase, you're gonna lose some friends. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna lose some friends. There's gonna be some pauses in your family relationships. There's gonna be some family functions that you're not gonna go to for a little while, because
Yeah.
you're working on yourself, and you begin to identify, when I'm around certain people, I act in a certain way that doesn't make me feel the best version of myself.
Yeah.
And once you start recognizing that, you begin to remove the shame from the trauma.
Yeah.
So
Love
in
that.
order, in order for you to stop moving inward and cleansing when you think about trauma, you have to say, I am going to remove the shame from this thing that happened to me for me.
Yeah.
You can't, you have no control over how somebody else feel. And that's why I said there's gonna be some friends that stop hanging around. There's gonna be some family members who are not where you are right now, and so they're not ready to deal with it, and that's okay. But it's
Mm-hmm.
about you understanding everyone is not met, or it's not going to walk your journey at the same time as you, and that is okay. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and recognizing that this is for me.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
for me. So I am going to work on my trauma
Yeah.
so that I can be the best version of myself. And that's why I call it the incubation stage. Because you think about when when a baby is premature, born prematurely, and they're in the incubator, and everything else is working for them, and they have no choice but to relax and allow
Yeah.
things to happen, so that they can become strong enough to come out of that phase.
Yeah. That's
And when
good.
you're going through a trauma, that's what you're doing.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're removing yourself away from people so that you can tap into yourself to become the better version of yourself. Some people run towards the noise, they run towards the chaos because they're not ready to be alone and ready to identify like what parts they play and how they can change certain things.
I'm
So
talking good now, sis.
around. So they need people around. So it's all so it everything connects. I'm a very spiritual person, and so usually I carry the name Reverend Dr. Barnes because I always tell people the Reverend is for me, the doctor is for you. My faith is something that gets me through my darkest times. And so I don't shy away from that. In the beginning years, I used to shy away from using Reverend because I didn't want to turn people off. People see Reverend and they automatically think church, or they think I'm judgy.
Yeah.
But I began to bring it into my framework because I want to share with people how it's a part of me. My faith is a part of me. And I don't push my faith onto anyone, but I do encourage them to find something that they feel is a higher or
Yeah.
being or something outside of themselves whether that can help ground them during the incubation phase. So whether it is energy, sound bath, meditation, Buddhism, like
Whatever.
whatever it is, whatever your most high is, embrace it. Don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
And so like that's the beginning stages of going from trauma to triumph. You have to understand where you are, call out whatever your trauma is, and then reclaim your power from it. Reclaim
Yeah.
your power from it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. And so when I think about, I'm just going to shift a little bit. When we think about helping other people with their traumas, I'm an empath, right? And so I
So
wear
am I.
people's stuff, right? And so we have to be mindful of that as well as to release other people's energy, other people's baggage, other people's thoughts and stuff like that. How do you stay grounded and show up for yourself, and like when everything gets so heavy or so loud?
I'm glad you asked that, which is very important because I was definitely wanted to highlight that as an empath, but as well, I've learned that I have to make sure I set time to debrief, to release, and it's something that I always say reset, revamp, relaunch.
Mhm.
So sometimes I need to, when I say reset, I'm restoring myself. I schedule out time where I'm journaling, I'm brain dumping, which is another strategy that I have in the From Trauma to Triumph, where I am just downloading everything that's heavy so that I'm not carrying it into my sleep. I'm not carrying it into my
Yeah,
relationships. I'm not carrying it into my next day.
yeah.
Um, and then I also find opportunities to just belly laugh. And when I say belly laugh, I mean like I'm deep down when you remember when you was a kid with your cousins or your
I
siblings,
love
whatever,
it.
and you get sleepy and you can't stop laughing. That deep belly laugh because within there's joy and sadness and tears and laughter. And
Yes.
that's something that people have to remember will lift a weight off you that you had no idea you were carrying. But a good laugh would do the same as well. And so that's how I definitely find my space and my grounding, whether it is belly laughing, whether it is journaling.
Mhm.
Sometimes I have a little dance party in the
Mhm.
living room with my dog. I have an American pit bull, and this thing we turn the music on, and I just grab her paws, and we be in here rocking from
I
side to
love
side.
it.
But she's my emotional support dog, so that's what we do. So on the times where I need to separate myself from other, but then there's times where family is the best medicine you can have when you have a supportive family. And so for me, tapping into that love, tapping
Mhm.
into joy, those are the ways I keep myself grounded. And those are the ways when I have heavy times and days, I like to reflect on those things to bring me through to the other side.
I love that. I have a pit bull too, so I understand that. I love it. And so before we wrap up, we definitely have to do this again. That's just a definite, right? We got to
Yes,
get
yes.
together again. But I want to be at the end of every episode, I want to leave something for our younger selves, right? So what is one thing that you would tell your younger self if you had the chance?
One thing I would tell my younger self, I would tell my younger self that you are just as beautiful the way you are. Don't look for others to validate
Mm,
greatness. Don't look for others to validate your greatness.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Reverend Dr. Lydia.
Now listen here. I need you. I'm listen on June 28th. I'm
Mhm.
having my trauma on the rooftop experience. I would love for you to come on out, come to Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
come on out and join in this transformation experience. This is all about navigating through the trenches, understanding what your triumph looks like, and showing up and being the best version of yourself, letting go other people's expectations and living in your moment. And that's what Triumph on the Rooftop is about. It's about navigating through those spaces and entering the spaces where people may have told you you don't belong, and saying, I will no longer allow that to be my story. My story is my triumph of what
I
I'm
love
deciding
it.
for it to be. So
Oh, yeah.
join me in Brooklyn on the rooftop.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Oh,
I'll
I'm gonna get you said June 28th.
Yes, June 28th.
Okay. Yes. I'll pull up to Brooklyn, BK. But listen, let everybody know where they can connect with you, where they can find you.
Absolutely. So follow me on all social media platforms at Coach Barnes GMT _ and check out my website. You can learn my blog is on there. What's coming up next? Free webinars, free website workshops, as well as upcoming events. And that's www.xeniabarnes.com.
Awesome. And that will be in the description, of course, at the bottom. So I want to thank you again, Dr. Xenia. And I just want, if you heard something that, that touched you today, I want you to share this episode with at least 2 friends. Like, subscribe, follow for more, because we got some heavy hitters coming through. It's all about taking action. It's all about learning the journey and embracing your own as well. So I want you to be well, have an amazing rest of the week, and remember that your past does not dictate your better future. Till next episode.